Obviously, you're someone who's well known for your character in wrestling. What was the origins of it and your initial thoughts going into like what essentially is like a mentally challenged adult?
So we go back, I start wrestling in 1996. I got hired by WWE in 1999 and developed in OVW for those years. And it got to a point where Nick Dinsmore was one of the top OVW guys. And WWE, I'd heard Finlay say, we've got to find a spot for him. We've got to find something for him. And Nick Dinsmore, the wrestler, wasn't going to be on WWE. There wasn't the character that fit that, in my perception. So I just decided to come up with something completely opposite, but it was Rip Rogers that gave me the little idea. Rip Rogers' son has autism, might not be able to communicate with the other kids in class, but he could like count in Korean, and he could whiz on a computer, and all these specialized things that he does extremely well. Rip said, what about a wrestler that can do all the moves that he's ever seen on TV, and he knows all the history that has ever been, he's read all the books, you know, but maybe he's not too social, you know, maybe he can't tie his boots or put on his knee pads. Because one other thing, I never had the very deep bass voice. Mm-hmm. So my promos would come off a little softer and it doesn't sound as good, but Eugene wouldn't have to be like, you know, gosh dang it, I'm gonna get him, you know, he didn't have to be loud. He can be meek and slow. And I kind of let that idea brew in my head because Rip would tell us guys' ideas all the time. He was always trying to get guys' ideas, boom. So a couple months go by, and then the agents came down. I don't remember which one it was, but it was like Fit or Dean or Arn Anderson. And I said, well, what about the character? And I spit out the same thing, you know. And they go, no. Wrestling's gone beyond that. We are more reality-based now. Okay, whatever. And I'm still, you know, but you also got to think, I'm in OVW, but that's where I'm from. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. We had 4, maybe 5, couple-hour training sessions in the afternoon and a couple shows on the weekend. I'm living in my own bed, doing what I love. You know what I mean? The longest trips were like 2 hours away, you know, and it was just, I was in a great position. But I saw how other guys would complain and they would get called up. But the writers came. Let me back up. I didn't tell you, the writers came first. Give the idea to the writers. Vince would never do that. He would not do a character. Okay, you know. So that's when I started to remember, you know, all my friends had been called up. The guys that complained got called up. So maybe if I should, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? I tell my students that you can't squeak too much, but the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I told Doug Basham, I said, I think I'm going to quit and try to go to Japan. But I didn't know anybody in Japan. I had no way to get there. I would not have any idea how to do it. Doug Basham tells Dean Malenko. Dean Malenko tells Johnny Ace. And then
Johnny Ace.
So all of this happened about 2003-ish because in 2004, Johnny Ace had told Vince, and I was in a meeting with Vince McMahon and Stephanie. I'm thinking February 2004. Vince comes up and goes, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. And I just spit out this idea of a character, you know. Now guys would do character research and pick an archetype and with this characters. It was just an idea that had been in the back of my head that I hadn't really put effort into thinking. I just spit it out. And he's walking around and he's thinking, the Rain Man of wrestling. Stephanie's chiming in, yeah, we could have him do this kind of angle. And I think they were taping a Saturday Night's Main Event because Austin was there. And Austin walks into Vince's office. Vince goes, Steve, have you ever seen this kid wrestle? Austin goes, no, I don't think I have. And I said, well, I was trained by the Nightmare Danny Davis because I knew that Danny and Austin became friends when they wrestled in the Dallas territory. Austin came to OVW to do one of our first big shows. Danny's a friend of Austin. Danny was on Austin's podcast, and I knew, you know, I had my 1 second, you know, trained by Danny Davis, and Austin looks at me and goes, well, you're probably one of the best. And Vince is like, great, we'll start on Monday. We didn't actually start on the Monday, but I feel like it was that vote of confidence from Stone Cold Steve Austin, who I think I'd shaken his hand when he was there, but I really didn't know him. You know, that vote of confidence to, you know, give the kid a try that got the kid a try.
So you created the character, Vince, you pitched it to Vince, he approved it. Was there any backlash from playing that character?
Hey, we're filming in here. Come on, man.
It's a birthday party, dude.
This was a serious situation. This guy nearly called the law. He is still upset.
Well, while we were talking about that when we came in, was there ever, we were talking about your character, did you ever get any backlash from your character?
The backlash, right? When Eugene first appeared on TV, I think there was some media outlets or maybe disc jockeys that said, what is WWE doing now?
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing now? But then the minute that they saw Eugene win his first match, after that, I've got nothing but positive affirmation because Eugene was a success story. Eugene was the underdog story of the boyhood dream that gets his opportunity and wins. You know, I was in the ring with The Rock. I was in the ring with Hulk Hogan at Mania. I got the action figure. I got the teddy bear. I even pinned Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? As a boy, the dream of being a WWE superstar, that's what you want.
Right.
You want all that. I was at an autograph signing in Pigeon Forge recently. Young man came up to me. He wanted a picture with Eugene and together, an autograph, all right. Then he handed me his phone.
Right.
It was a text from his mother to me telling me this guy was 21, had a good-looking girl with him, you know. This guy was high-functioning autism, and when Eugene was on TV, his dad wasn't around. He had 2 younger siblings. The mom had to work 2 jobs, so, you know, and he got inspiration because if Eugene can, you know, fight these guys and Eugene can overcome these odds, then he knew he could do it as well. And it was the most touching text. I started crying in the middle of the autograph signing, and I had him send it to me. And then I tried to read it later. Still started crying. I still can't finish it, but it was a very emotional. But my point is, Eugene did a lot of good for a lot of people that are in that cross section of America. You know, that target
Right.
audience that's being generally unrepresented.